How we doing, guys? Welcome to DT's Daily. We are back again for another week, and I hope every single one of you have had a good weekend. Now, on today's show, we're going to be talking about the Bundesliga because it returned over the weekend and we finally got to see some football again. We're also going to be talking about the Premier League meeting, which will be happening today. And we're also going to be talking about Alexandre Lacazette because he's been a bit of a naughty boy. And Arsenal have issued a statement and they're not too happy.
I represent my fucking self.
How we doing, guys? Welcome to DT's Daily. That's right.
So the first place we're going to start is Germany and the Bundesliga. And of course, we got football back over the course of the weekend. And I think everything went quite well. The games were really difficult to get into at the beginning. A really weird atmosphere with no fans inside the stadium, especially when you look at the atmosphere normally in Germany. And it did very much feel like a pre-season kind of game. But some of the games were really good. And the intensity of some of these games was quite high, which was quite surprising when you think that there's been no football for 2 months. They've had no pre-season games. I say pre-season, but it's not pre-season. But they never had no warm-up games, shall we say. They never, had any time to pick up the intensity. It was just straight off the cuff and they had to get going. Some found it more difficult than others and some didn't look like they had even been away. One of those sides was Borussia Dortmund, second in the table, chasing the likes of Bayern Munich. And I'll tell you something, watching them, it didn't look like they'd had 2 months out. First 10-15 minutes, there were a couple of rusty moments and that was to be expected. But then they really stepped up a gear and it was a derby against Schalke. And, normally these kind of games are really end-to-end tight and, loads of goals. And Schalke have actually had the better of these kind of games in recent times. But Borussia Dortmund just absolutely battered them. And, you got to look at the first goal. Haaland, no surprise that he scores. Jadon Sancho was on the bench. Dortmund actually looked like they had a weaker side in comparison to when they actually broke up. So I don't know how that actually ended up happening. But you would never have noticed because they were absolutely immense, like I said. And they run out 4-0 winners. It was very, very comfortable. And it was a very, very good performance. You're looking at some of the other results. Hoffenheim. That was not a great result for them at home against Hertha. They lost 3-0 in that game. Augsburg, they lost 2-1 at home to Wolfsburg. Dusseldorf, they drew 0-0 at home. So I think that was one of the games that you wouldn't want to watch over the course of the weekend. RB Leipzig, bit of a surprise this one, drawing 1-1 against Freiburg at home. And Leipzig, they're chasing that pack of Dortmund and Munich and they're not going to be happy with that result. But when you look at it as well, they're probably glad that they got away with a point in the end because Freiburg actually scored in injury time, but it was ruled out because of VAR. So Leipzig take a point, but with the amount of chances they had in that game, they'll be very, very disappointed and they'll feel that's 2 points dropped. Eintracht Frankfurt, they lost at home 3-1 to Mönchengladbach. And Mönchengladbach, their attacking force was very evident and they carried on where they left off. Cologne, they drew 2-2 against Mainz and that was one of the games yesterday. And also Union Berlin against Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich running out 2-0 winners in that game. And I think Union Berlin definitely missed the home advantage and not having their fans inside the stadium. They had a decent opening 15-20 minute spell, but then Bayern Munich took control. Were very, very ruthless in their play. And Lewandowski scores a penalty. And it was very much a controlled performance. And I feel that Bayern Munich are only going to get stronger when they really start to move through the gears. And, if that's them in first gear, then I'll tell you something, that was a decent performance. So, yeah, listen, the Bundesliga has completed its first weekend back after the coronavirus, or whilst we're in the midst of the coronavirus, shall we say. And they're the first major European league to do so. all eyes of the world will be watching and have been watching. And I suppose the big test now will be when the players go and have more test results, and all of those have to come back negative, the staff members and everything else. If somebody comes back as being positive, then you're going to have to start raising questions as to how. And maybe it will have been too soon to come back. But if all of those results do come back negative, then hopefully we can all start to move forward. Couple of moments there that still surprise me and kind of I look at and I'm not too sure about. The substitutes were all 2 meters apart on the bench. And they've all got to wear face masks, and I understand the precautions and the safety measures and everything. But if they're your teammates and you're training with them and everything else, then why do you have to be 2 meters apart? You look at the game itself, everybody's crowded around each other, corners, free kicks. You know, everyone's manhandling each other, jostling for the ball in the box and tackling and all kinds of stuff. But then, you know, when a goal scored, there's social distancing celebrations, and that part of it I don't understand. If you're touching opposing players in the box and you're fighting for the ball, and then you can't even celebrate with a teammate when you score, I don't really understand that one. But it is what it is. We've got the weekend done, and like I said, all eyes now will be on those next set of results, and that everything, hopefully, fingers crossed, come back negative and we can move forward with everything. So yeah, some decent games over the weekend, but it's going to take a while to get used to. But right now, this is the norm, and there's not much we can do about that. Going to the Premier League, of course, today there is another Premier League meeting about Project Restart. And the Premier League clubs will hold their latest emergency conference call on Project Restart on Monday morning, with a vote required to initiate a return to training in small groups, which is being reported by Sky Sports News. A vote is required to implement the first phase of training in small groups with social distancing and nothing more advanced. At least 14 clubs must approve these new measures. If the majority of clubs agree on Monday's conference call, players can return to a sterile, non-contact environment later in the week. A return to training on social distance basis has been discussed between club captains, managers, the PFA and the LMA, and concerns have been raised by some senior players. As we have seen by comments from Newcastle manager Steve Bruce and Manchester City's Raheem Sterling over the weekend, the timescale for a return to training remains a key issue. So yeah, it remains to be seen actually what happens. I do think that they will get the majority vote for this, and that players will start to gradually go back to training. But there are more and more people within the game now starting to come out and voice their concerns. Now, over the last couple of weeks, you've heard a lot of concerns from teams that are probably fighting relegation. A lot of people have been saying, well, look, they're fighting relegation. It's obvious they don't want the season to continue at the moment, etc. But now you're starting to see the likes of Raheem Sterling at Manchester City, who are not fighting relegation, you know, second in the table. They've still got unfinished business in the Champions League and whatnot, and, you know, domestic cup competitions. So players are concerned. And yeah, I do think they will go back to training, but a return to football in about 3 weeks' time, I'm still not certain of that yet. I've really got to start to see the numbers dropping dramatically. And that's not just the death rate in the UK, that's the infection rate as well. And what will be interesting to see will be in a couple of weeks' time, because it's been a week now since, you know, the lockdown measures were relaxed a little bit. And we've seen some images and videos of people that are already going out and basically taking the piss. So we'll see whether that infection rate climbs again in about a week to 2 weeks' time, because of the stupidity of some people. Even the protests in Hyde Park over the course of the weekend. It just beggars belief, to be quite honest. So a long way to go yet before the Premier League returns. And like I try saying to people, do not compare the Bundesliga to the Premier League. Do not compare Germany to the UK. Completely and utterly different. I want football to return in the UK when it's safe to do so. And when I say safe, I mean, you know, the numbers are considerably down. The Bundesliga in Germany are a mile ahead of what's going on in this country. So don't compare. And just because I'm happy that football's returned in some capacity doesn't mean that I want the Premier League to return at the sake of people's lives. Absolutely no chance. So we'll wait and see what happens in that meeting. Last piece of news involves Alexandre Lacazette. And it's not great what I've seen over the course of the weekend. And Arsenal are investigating an incident involving Alexandre Lacazette after a video emerged online showing the forward appearing to inhale from a balloon. As reported by the Daily Star, footage showed the France forward appearing to inhale from a balloon positioned at his mouth during the lockdown. Arsenal have said in a statement that this is a private matter which we are taking seriously. It will be handled internally, and the club will be releasing nothing else regarding this matter at this time, while the forward is yet to make any comment. Lacazette and several other Gunners teammates were reminded of their responsibilities following a similar incident in 2018, where the group of players were pictured inhaling nitrous oxide at a London nightclub. So look, listen, it's not great. It's not illegal to do, but when you're in the position he's in, you can't be doing that. And you're a role model. And what you do behind closed doors, listen, nobody should know, you know. But when you're sharing that video to friends and whatnot, you've got to start to question as well, who's really your friend? Because where did this video come from to be leaked to the press? You know, this is not a video that he's put on social media or anything like that. It's a video that was shared to a group of friends. But which one of those friends has stabbed him in the back? And where's that come from? Absolutely beggars belief, first and foremost. But if he's doing this behind closed doors and nobody knows, then nobody has a problem because nobody knows. But when you're putting that out there and it ends up in the public domain, it's not a good look. It really is not. And especially with the situation we're in with the lockdown and everything else, it's not great. And Arsenal, they're obviously very, very unhappy. And this is something that I don't think Mikel Arteta will take lightly. He doesn't seem like the type of person that will take things like this with a pinch of salt and he will let them get away with it. And I, reckon that there will be serious reprimand for Lacazette. But Arsenal will obviously keep that behind closed doors. And we might find out in due course what happens. It'd be interesting to see what Lacazette has to say and whether he will come out and say anything about it. But so far, I haven't seen anything yet. So there we go. That is it for today's DT's Daily. As usual, let me know in the comment section what you think about today's topics. Let me know what you thought about the Bundesliga games over the course of the weekend. Did you enjoy them or did you find it really difficult to watch? If you're new around here, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you smash a like on this video. And I'll see you a lot soon. I'm out of here.